I think we should pause perhaps to pay tribute to somebody I know we both admired, Peter Reith, the former Howard government minister who passed away earlier this week. Now, Peter Reith was a man who did understand the fundamentals of workplace reform. I think he knew that the only way to get improved standards of living, higher wages, was through productivity and efficiency, and no more than anywhere is that true than on the waterfront, which is the sort of place where the economy passes through. Things have to function well in order to keep prices down and keep things flowing and keep wages up. I think what he did under the Howard government in terms of standing up to the unions who behaved in quite brutal and appalling ways at the time, to ensure that reform could be brought to the waterfront, that companies could be able to bring in more efficient ways of handling containers. There was lasting benefit from that, wasn't there? And yet it probably wasn't easy at that time to push those reforms through.
I think people who are both observers and participants in politics can all take a lot of inspiration for the tenacity with which he pursued reform. He wasn't afraid of a fight when that fight was going to deliver in the long term for Australians who needed it. And I think that is an example that is in the most noble traditions of political service, and really, a case study upon which those who serve should reflect and draw quite a bit of modern inspiration from, because there are lots of hard arguments that need to be taken on, just as Reith did on the waterfront. And it is too common for people of all political colours to just cave to fashion rather than engage deeply in the philosophical basis and the practical evidence to support the policies for which they are prepared to argue. He was a great inspiration for me as a young person starting to engage with and understand the political world, and led many of my generation to try and understand economics for the first time. But the reality is that many of the hard-fought gains that were made under his time at the waterfront have ebbed away over successive governments and under other management structures that perhaps had less ticker than Chris Corrigan did at the time. And we now see still on the waterfront absurd arrangements we wouldn't accept in any other workplace, like the idea that jobs can be handed down through the families as though they are a treasure to be bequeathed. We have the bizarre situation where people in that workplace seem to think that the need for ever-improving productivity shouldn't be connected to ever-rising wages. None of that would be accepted anywhere else. And when we go to the supermarket or to any shop and see an empty shelf, it's the misbehaviour of unionists on our wharves that is almost always the reason why we leave empty-handed.